Good afternoon. How are you? Well, it's the afternoon because I'm working on my cases today, and so I just looked up and I thought it's time to go get a walk. So here I am. Um, I have several of my favorite subjects to discuss. One is the rush to judgment in the Cuomo case. Now, don't get me wrong. I can believe that he did all the things that people say he did, but where's the beef in this sense? We talk about due process. That's just a fancy way of saying fundamentally fair. So if I conduct in secret behind closed doors an investigation of you, and I go out and I test the credibility of what people say, I never let you cross-examine them. I never let you answer what they have to say. How reliable is the result? Now, it could be reliable. It could be 100% reliable. All across America, everybody believes it. Everybody's calling for Cuomo to leave office, and maybe he should. But how do I prove that this is beyond the pale, not how we're supposed to do things? I have a great example. Everybody's very excited that one of the, quote, victims went to the sheriff in Albany and filed a complaint. And some people said, Cuomo's been charged with a crime, but he hasn't. And why hasn't he been charged? She said that he didn't. It's the same thing that was in the report. So why isn't he charged with a crime? Well, the answer is it's a he said, she said crime. The complainant is saying one thing, and the governor, to the extent he knows what the charges are, is saying something else. So they're going to have to investigate it. Now, are they going to get the information that the AG had? Maybe. Are the transcripts of what these people said? Maybe. Did they subpoena material and documents to corroborate the complaints? Maybe. The report seems to suggest they have all those things. But again, it hasn't seen the light of day. So we don't know how strong it is. And again, it may be very strong. Now, everybody says, well, there are 11 complaints. There's a problem with that as a matter of evidence. If I charge you with crime A involving woman A who claims you did fill in the blank, whatever sexual misconduct act is criminal or repulsive or creates a toxic work environment, any of the above, I have to prove that single event. Now, can I join other complaints with it? Well, what if some of them happen before the statute of limitations? That's a problem. I don't know if that's the case or not. But here's another one. You can't, in prosecution A, line up B, C, D, E, and F as, quote, similar acts to prove A unless the method of sexual misconduct is so specific a way that you say, that's like a patented way to commit this crime. So, in other words, it's a little more difficult than you think. So, why would this happen? Well, at the very least, you have one of the most powerful governors in the United States who was at least at one time very popular for how he was handling the pandemic. And now he's on the wrong end of accusations. Now, here's another thing that bothers me about this whole thing. It bothers me that we have got this guy and we're throwing him out of office and prosecuting him and everything. And Trump does everything out in the open, not just sexual offenses, everything else. We see it, we have it, we know it, and nothing happens to him. So that's kind of my thinking about the Cuomo thing. And I'm very interested to see how some of these things turn out. And I guess we'll get a better idea from the impeachment in the New York General Assembly. Now, what else are we concerned about? Well, as I'm talking to you this afternoon, on the Hill, they're messing around with the infrastructure bill. Now remember, there are two bills. One is the $1 trillion bill, which is the supposed coalition of Democrats and Republicans to pass a bill. Now let's look at that for a second. You may remember that Biden started with a $2.2 trillion bill, and this was going to be the compromise, and it went to 1.9, and then 1.2, and now it's 1 trillion, and then the question was how are we going to pay for it, and we were going to pay for it with the taxes of the rich. Well, that's off the table. Then we were going to pay for it with your gas and diesel tax. Well, that's off the table. And now we're going to pay for it by leaning on people with cryptocurrency. In other words, the Republicans and Democrats have decided they can have some other fool be in the hot seat for how to pay for this thing and not either go against the rich and do what Biden said he would do and not do the tax and gas revenue. So what do I think the chances are of this succeeding? Well, here's the interesting thing. But before you consider how this may pass, you got to consider the other bill. We went from Biden's 2.2 trillion to now 3.2 trillion. And the only way he can pass that is on a budget reconciliation if all the Democrats agree and they pick up the vice president. Nobody talks about Sinema or Manchin agreeing, and I don't think they will. And everybody wonders, hey, look, McConnell, he supported a procedural vote to bring this to the floor. Why is that? Because he has foresight. Now, maybe this won't happen, and I'd be happy if we're all singing Kumbaya and we pass something bipartisan, which would mean we were passing past Trump to a better place, that he was having no influence. But this is the way I think McConnell looks at this thing. He's a chess player. He must have been a student of the Jesuits. He says, look, we passed the $1 trillion deal. Now, it has to clear the House in order to become law and end up on the desk of the president to sign. But the second shoe has to drop for Pelosi to agree to the first bill. So Pelosi is not going to bring to the floor of the House the, quote, coalition bill, the bipartisan bill, unless also the second bill, the $3.2 trillion bill, is passed under the budget reconciliation bill. So McConnell is counting on two things happening. One, the $1 trillion bill may fall apart, but that's not a great scenario for him. He'd like it to go all the way to the House. In my opinion, he'd like the $3.2 trillion bill to fail so that when it gets to the House and Pelosi won't bring it to the floor, he can say, well, we had a bipartisan bill and Pelosi killed bipartisanship. But she has already said that bill is not going to be brought to the floor unless we also have the other bill, the $3.2 trillion bill. So this is all mirrors. Now, I may be proven wrong, and that would be great. I would love it because it would mean there's an advance away from Trump. But that's how I think this is going to be gamed. Now, the second game is all those people from Texas came up to D.C. to say, you got to do something about our voting rights. And they've gone to everybody, and that means they've also gone to Sinema and to Manchin. And what they need is to push the cloture vote away. That is, they have to be allowed to vote a majority vote in order to pass voting rights. Now, is that going to happen? It looks like not. You notice whenever they ask a Democrat, so is this going to come out of the Senate caucus? Oh, yeah, well, we're working it. Yeah, it's going to happen. Yeah, it's not going to happen. It is not going to happen. Again, boil me in oil. If I'm wrong, I will gratefully boil because I would like to see the Democrats solve this puzzle. But I have my doubts that they're talking to us straight now and that they can get those two votes. So McConnell will look like a hero championing bipartisan agreement on a bill that doesn't tax the rich, even if it does pass, and goes after cryptocurrency if it can, increases the debt, and borrow some money from earlier incentive funds that went toward fighting the pandemic. Yes, it's a scandal. It really is a scandal. It's a 3-card Monte dealer, but it's not just a few bucks on cards and stuff on the table. It's much bigger than that. It's about democracy in the first case. It's about taking care of our infrastructure in another case. It's about actually doing something, working together. So that's what I have this afternoon, and I'll talk to you tomorrow, Sunday, in my Cathedral of Trees. Bye-bye.